Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsyreplays. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to look at the weakest tier 9 tank in the game, and as usual, this is just my opinion. Everyone keeps saying in these videos, dude, what are you talking about? You're nuts, you're crazy. Well, this is my opinion, and everyone is entitled to their opinion, and at the moment it's this tank that I personally think is the weakest tank in tier 9. If you have any other any choices, that's up to you. That is up to you, and it's your opinion. So in tier 9, I have gone for the WZ120. Yes, I've gone for this. This has always been a weak tank. Fair enough, it's been buffed and it's been made better, but I just think along with all the other tier 9 tanks, this is the weakest. Now, in my opinion, it was a difficult choice whether I put this or whether I put the M46 pattern, because I do think the M46 pattern is quite weak. But due to the DPM of the pattern, I've gone for the WZ120 for a few different reasons. So what is the tank actually like? Now, it has been made better. Wargaming has made it better. They buffed it, but for me, it is still the weakest. It's still the weakest from the tier 9s. So it does have a turret at 220 millimeters. Not the greatest, but you can still get a good amount of bounces on there. And you also have only 2,600 DPM. Now, we are running this with calibrated shells to get the penetration just over 300 millimeters on your heat. So that is, you have to run it really with the calibrated shells. So that, yeah, the DPM makes it very weak. The DPM 2600 is quite weak in my opinion. The reload time is 900. Sorry, 900, don't want to wait, 900, 9 seconds, and the penetration, as we've already stated, 231 on your standard AP and 308 on your heat. So with 230, you will struggle to pen a lot of tanks, especially in tier 10. In tier 8, yeah, maybe you will be able to penetrate them, but tier 10, you're really going to struggle, and even against tier 9s as well. So your alpha is a 400 alpha shot, which is nice. Your heat is 340 and your HE is 500. Your aim time is actually very good at 2.4, and the dispersion not bad at 0.310, and it only has 5 degrees of gun depression, which for me is the biggest point as to why this is the weakest tier 9s. Yes, it doesn't have the penetration, it doesn't have the DPM, it's the gun depression. It really does suffer with that gun depression. 56 kilometers per hour going forward as well, so that is not, the speed isn't so bad. So I mean, I want to like this tank. I love the WZ120. I do love, I love the WZ121. And this, for me, like, ever since it has entered the game, the same with the WZ121. When that first was into the game, it was absolutely useless. It had no gun depression. It was very, very poor. But over the last few years, Wargaming have given the 121 some love. And it's only been sort of over the last 6 months to the year that they have given the 120 some love. But ever since this tank has been brought into the game, it 100%, in my opinion, is the weakest medium in tier 9. There's some good tier 9s. There are some good tier 9s. Tier 9 is probably one of my favourite tiers to play. But when it comes to mediums, I mean, tier 10 is probably my favourite tier to play for the mediums, because there's just loads. You've got the Leopard, the T62, tanks like that, the T22. But tier 9, you just don't have that. You don't really have that. You do have, obviously, the T54, the T55, the M46 pattern, which isn't great either, in my opinion. It is very, very weak. It's got no armour. It's got no turret. It's got DPM and it's got speed, and that, again, that is about it. And then you got the 120, the T54 E1. There's quite a few mediums Even the Leopard PTA, I mean, it's alright, it's not bad, but it's no Leopard 1. So the tier 9 mediums compared to tier 10, it is just way apart. It's absolutely way apart. And they're not as enjoyable to play than tier 10. So you do struggle. And this tank here, I mean, if this tank had, say, 7 degrees of gun depression, then I would definitely change my opinion on the tank, regardless of the DPM, regardless of the penetration. If this tank had 7 degrees of gun depression, I mean, here, look, we are struggling to get the shot on the Chimera. We have to actually go all the way up to get our shot off, and that for me is just because it's got no armor profile either. It's got no turret, it's got no, well, it has got a turret, sorry, but it's got no hull. It's just, it really is for me a disappointment. It is a disappointment with the tank, and you can see here we can't get our shot off on this Skoda T27, so we're just going to have to try and back up, and you do have to sort of go in at an angle like we are here to try to get that gun down far enough to get the shot off. So yeah, there's a few bad tanks in tier 9. Of course there are a few bad tanks in tier 9. We're just going to die here from the waffle, but for me the WZ120 is by far the worst tank. And let's just have a look at tier let's have a, oh no, we don't want to go into battle. Let's just have a look at tier 9 mediums, and we will discuss them, because there is quite a few tier 9 mediums. Now the T55A, okay, it's all right. That's about it. It's all right. It's a premium T54. The standard B, absolutely brilliant tank. I absolutely love the standard B. So if we just take something like, let's have a look. So we got the Skoda T50 here. Again, not a bad tank. It's got spaced armor, and you can perform well in this tank. Even though I haven't really played it, it's not bad. The AMX-30 prop. Now this tank I've always considered one of the best. I really do enjoy this tank. Again, the penetration does suffer a little bit, but it's got a turret and it's got gun depression. And then you've got the Type 61, which again, most people will think this tank is weak, but it's got fantastic DPM. Yes, it's got no armor, but the DPM on this thing is really good. 3000 DPM. That's not bad. That's not bad DPM. And on top of that, it's got 10 degrees of gun depression, and the speed's 48 kilometers per hour. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people will probably think that the Type 61 is the weakest, but personally, I like the Type 61. Yes, it's got no armor, but you don't need armor on every single tank. You've got gun depression, you've got DPM. The Centurion speaks for itself now, in my opinion, is the best tier 9 medium tank in the game, with the Hesh that this tank has got. Absolutely brilliant. The Hesh that this tank has got is pretty much the same penetration as all the other tanks in tier 9 there. I mean, look, 231. It's pretty much the same as the standard pen on all the other tier 9s. The T54, again, it's a legend of a tank. It's always going to be known as a legend, so I can never add that into the worst or the weakest. The Leopard PTA, again, you could add this, but it's got gun depression. It's got, I'm not sure what the DPM is, 2,300. No, it's not. It's a bit higher than that. Where are you? DPM, where are you? DPM. So I don't even know why I have that. Why I haven't even got that, because I don't play it. But 2,400, again, not the greatest of DPMs, but it's got speed and it's got the gun depression as well to go with that. E50 is a good tank. It's no E50M, but it's still a decent tank. M46 pattern, which we've spoken about, it's got no armor whatsoever, and I almost added this as the lowest, the weakest, but again, 3000 DPM, which is great, with 10 degrees of gun depression. Absolutely fantastic, and if you play that right, you can still deal a lot of damage. And then you've got the T54E1. Again, this can be a weak tank. It's got no the ammo, it's only got AP and APCR, it's got no HE, but play this tank right, and it's really not a bad tank. So overall, there are a couple of weak medium tanks in tier 9, but I just think that the WZ120 is definitely the weakest. But I'd love to know your opinions. Which tank do you think is the weakest? And I'm not just looking at medium tanks, I'm looking at just tanks in general, but I think tier 9 is one of the best for tank destroyers. Heavies is not bad as well. You've got the IS-8, which can be weak, the AMX 5120, which is quite weak, the Emil 2, which is quite weak, and then you've got the light tanks, which I don't think none of the light tanks are that weak, to be honest. The Bat Chat is probably the weakest out of them all. So yeah, overall, definitely, in my opinion, the WZ120 is the weakest tier 9 tank. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Which tank do you think is the weakest in tier 9? So I hope you enjoyed today's video, guys. I'm meadsy69, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye-bye. With